So, you've got the gear and you're ready to launch your very own DAB Plus digital radio station. In the next few minutes, we're going to walk through the entire setup for this PCS electronics transmitter, step by step. We're going to turn that box of electronics into a powerful broadcast signal. Let's get right into it. Okay, at the very heart of your setup, you have two key components. Think of it like this. On the left, you've got the EDABv2 plus exciter. That's the brains of the whole operation. It's what actually creates your digital radio signal. And on the right, that's the CyberMax amplifier. That's the brawn. It takes that signal and gives it the muscle it needs to reach your audience. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with a few essential rules for a safe and powerful broadcast. You don't want to skip those. Then we'll get hands-on and configure the exciter and the amplifier. And finally, we'll cover the go-live process and, how to fix any common issues that might pop up. All right, before we even think about plugging anything in, let's talk about the 3 golden rules. Honestly, getting these right from the very beginning is absolutely essential for protecting your equipment and making sure you have a clean, powerful broadcast.
Here they are, plain and simple. First, you must use a properly tuned antenna. Second, you have to maintain a low SWR. We'll talk about what that means in a sec. And third, use high-quality 50-ohm coaxial cable. This is the industry standard for a reason. It ensures everything matches up perfectly, preventing signal loss. Trust me, skimping on any of these is just a recipe for disaster.
So what is this SWR thing everyone's always talking about? Well, in simple terms, it's just a measurement of how efficiently power gets from your transmitter through the cable and out to your antenna. A low SWR is great. It means most of your power is actually being broadcast. A high SWR, though, means power is being reflected back into your transmitter, and that can cause some serious damage and really poor performance. The manual gives us a really clear target. A 1-to-1 ratio is basically perfect. That's the dream. Your goal is to get as close to that as you possibly can. Now, anything up to 2-to-1 is generally considered acceptable, but if you see a number higher than that, you have to stop what you're doing and tune your antenna before you go any further. Get that SWR low. All right, with those golden rules locked in, it is time to get hands-on. We're going to start by configuring the brains of our station, that little EDABv2 plus exciter board. The physical setup here is incredibly simple. Seriously, it's just 2 steps. First, connect a standard Ethernet cable to the port on the back. Second, plug in the 5-volt power supply. And a key point here, for now, do not connect it to the amplifier. We'll get to that part later. All the configuration for this device happens to a simple little web page. So just open up your favorite browser and type in this default IP address, 192.168.0.170. That should bring up the DAB modulator control panel. Now, if that web page doesn't load, don't panic. You've probably just hit the single most common setup issue. All it means is that your computer and the exciter aren't on the same network range. They're not on the same, let's call it, digital street. The fix is super easy. Just temporarily change your computer's IP address to something like 192.168.0.100. That should get you connected instantly. Okay, once you're in, the very first thing you need to do is get the exciter onto your local network. So you'll change the IP address, the net mask, and the gateway to match your router settings. Just make sure you assign it a unique IP that nothing else is using. Once you've put in the new settings, just hit Apply Config, and the device will restart. Okay, the brains of our station are all configured. Now, it's time to connect the brawn. Let's get that CyberMax amplifier ready to boost our signal. The front panel is actually pretty straightforward. If you see the green LED, that just means you've got power. A red LED, well, that's an error. It could be high SWR or temperature. The big switch puts it into standby mode, and that rotary button is your main control for navigating menus, and most importantly, for setting your output power. Now listen up, because the order you do things here is critical. You've got to follow this checklist exactly. It prevents any sudden power surges from hitting unprotected parts, which could cause really serious damage. So one more time. Antenna first, then the jumper cable, then the mains power. Power on the amp to standby, then power on the exciter, and only then do you flip the standby switch on the amp. Once it's on, you'll use that rotary button to set your output power. Now, the manual recommends starting low, say at about 25% for your first tests. This is just a smart way to make sure everything is working correctly before you crank it up to full power. We are on the home stretch. Let's cover the final checks before you officially go on the air, and we'll look at a few common issues you might run into and how to fix them quickly. So with the system running at that 25%, you're going to slowly ramp up the power to 50, and then up to 100%. As you're doing this, Keep a close eye on everything. Maybe even carefully touch your connectors and cables. They shouldn't be getting unusually warm. If they are, it could be a sign of a bad connection or, you guessed it, a high SWR issue. If you do run into trouble, this chart basically covers the most likely fixes. Can't get to the web UI? That's that IP address trick we just talked about. See a red LED on the exciter? That usually means it can't find the audio data stream, the ETI stream, which is almost always just a network configuration problem. No power from the amp? It's probably a triggered safety alarm. A quick reboot usually clears it. And if you have low output power, first check your drive level, and then double-check that SWR.
And there you have it. You see, by following these steps and remembering those golden rules, what seems like a really complex technical setup becomes a completely manageable project. You've successfully taken all this hardware and turned it into a working broadcast system.
So now, the technical part is done. Your station is officially on the air, broadcasting a clean, powerful digital signal. The only question left is, what are you going to broadcast?